Hi, folks, and welcome to the Working Cowboy Podcast. It's great to have you here. My name's Corey Herskowitz. I'm a working cowboy myself who likes to speak with other working cowboys. My goals for this podcast are to create a spot where those who admire the cowboy can hear real stories by the cowhands that lived through them. Those that live the life of the working cowboy will have a spot to share their story, experiences, and advertise themselves if they so choose. To have a spot where those looking for day hands or part-time hands can get in contact with working cowboys. Think of it as a job posting board. The folks I am looking to speak with are the men and women who are horseback 6 or 7 days a week, rain or shine, tending cattle. They're often the unsung heroes of the beef industry. But I won't limit this just to the hands who are in the beef industry. I believe the guys building equipment for the working cowboy are often cowboys themselves. For example, saddle makers, bit makers, rope makers, and farriers are oftentimes experienced working cowboys. I look forward to speaking with every type of cowboy, whether they're a cowpuncher, a buckaroo, Chileno, or any other kind of cowboy there is. This comes from a wide geographic space, all across the U.S., up into Canada, down into South America, Australia, all of them. If they're a cowboy, I want to talk to them. I'm excited to share a few of my stories and experiences with the hands I get to speak with. However, I'm more excited to hear some of the wild stories, the wrecks, and the different ways that guys do things to make their job easier in their part of the world. If you feel that I've described you in the type of hand that I'd like to talk to, or if you'd like to advertise with me, please send me an email at theworkingcowboypodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, enjoy, and God bless. Alrighty, we're sat down here with Pat Carpenter. He's a Nevada cowboy, northwestern Nevada, taking care of some desert cows out there. How's the year been so far?
Well, pretty good.
Pretty good. Getting some rains, getting some feed built.
We have, we had a pretty dry winter. We had one real big storm and a couple little ones kind of timely, and it's been wet enough to grow a lot of feed.
Good deal. Looking to be a good summer out on the deserts.
Yeah.
So you're not from Nevada originally, though. Where are you from? How'd you grow up? What'd you grow up doing?
Well, I grew up in Montana and Wyoming. My dad cowboyed around, worked on ranches all over the place. We moved, I don't know, seemed like on average we moved once a year or so until I got into high school, and then we kind of stayed put till about the time I left the house, or even then after my folks stayed put there for a while around Sheridan. But
Sure.
I grew up kind of moving a lot.
Sure. Typical working cowboy stuff.
Yeah.
All right. You went to high school in Sheridan, you said?
No, I went to high school in Buffalo, about 30 miles south of Sheridan, and I graduated. We moved just the year before I graduated. I graduated there at Bighorn, which is right there next to Sheridan.
Okay, Bighorn, big town, little town?
Little town. I graduated in about the top 35 or so of my class.
Out of 40?
Out of 35
Out
or
of 30.
so.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. Did you play any sports in high school?
I played football a little bit.
What'd you play?
I practiced football a little bit, I should say. Oh, they had me try to be a receiver, but I can't really catch. I'm kind of scared of the ball, and they also, when I was a senior, they had me on the line.
You're not a very big guy.
No, mostly I played in guard and tackle,
Cool.
into the bench, guard the water jug.
There you
all
go.
that,
Tackle cheerleaders.
Yeah.
You got into rodeoing in college a little bit, huh?
Yeah, so I always wanted to rodeo and never really had the chance until I was kind of out on my own and could sort of do what I wanted and had my own money and stuff. So, and I didn't go to college right away either. But when I was about 21, I started rodeoing, and then I went to college and did that whole deal for a little while.
Who'd you rodeo for under college?
Sheridan College.
Sheridan College.
Yeah, I went to school right there.
How'd that all play out? Pretty easy to get in, or on the
Um,
points team right away?
no, no. I didn't know nothing. I rodeoed through the summer with some of my buddies and getting on whatever I could, and I didn't even know how to enter a rodeo or who to talk to, you know. Um, but I did get a saddle and went to a handful of amateur rodeos and stuff all around. And then at the end of the summer, I decided I'd go to college, and I thought, well, that they'll give me a rodeo scholarship and pay for it. So, and I'd won one check for like $60 somewhere,
So you
and
saddle, he's a bronc rider then.
saddle bronc rider, yeah.
All right, good deal.
And so then I just one day I was building fence and welding and stuff around while I was rodeoing, and one day I went in there on my lunch break and dirty clothes and all that, and met the rodeo coach and told him who I was and told him I wanted to go to college and I wanted him to give me a scholarship. And he just kind of sat back and looked at me and grinned and, asked where I'd been and what I'd been doing and how much I rode. And he said, well, do you know so and so, and do you know this guy and you know that guy? And I didn't know any of them. He said, well, this guy was the national champion last year, the high school national champion in the saddle bronc riding, and this guy was the national champion in the bareback riding, and this guy was the national champion in the bull riding, and he had them all. And he basically told me he wasn't really looking for any more help, and he didn't really look at guys that hadn't high school rodeoed and did all that. And but he did let me come down and get on a practice horse, and he decided liked he liked my effort. I had a lot of try and not much else, and he liked that. And basically, all them kids, they either flunked out or got in too much trouble, or they just like Cannon AC he was a bull rider, and he just quit and went to rodeo, and then he won the world and the PRCA like right away. So
He was still in college that year, wasn't he?
yeah, him and I were. Well, we were enrolled the same year. I didn't see him much around the school, but yeah. So, anyways, everybody else, all them, guys that were really winning for him, they disappeared pretty quick, and then I got a little more attention, and yeah, I got a little better as I went along. Um, and I went to college there for a couple of years and rodeoed quite a bit doing that, and um, did okay. Didn't do real good, but I did okay for a while.
So just saddle broncs, huh? Never grabbed a hold of a rigging once.
Well, I did get on a couple, and it didn't go too good. I thought they didn't have many bareback riders at the college rodeos, and it was kind of wide open. There are like one or two guys that would usually win, and other than that, there wasn't. Anybody that did get on was, you I mean, some of them couldn't make the whistle even on a on a bareback horse. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just pick that up and make more points for the team. And I got on a couple of practice, and I just didn't like having my hand wedged in there. So
That can be a little scary.
yeah.
What's the one or two rides of your bronc riding career in college or afterwards that really stand out as high points for you?
Well, I used to keep a little book where I had all them rides wrote down, but a couple that I remember that I was pretty happy about. I got on a horse in Baker City, Oregon one time, a Flying Five horse called Boomtown that was a pretty rank horse and pretty out of line, and just felt horrible every jump. Every jump, I thought for sure I was bucked off, and it didn't. I mean, it was all I could do to stick with her. But I was scratching on her and stuff, and I did make the whistle, and the pickup men came in to get me, and she's going a different direction every jump, and they come in to get me, and I waved them off and told them, clear out. I'm gonna jump. I can't. I can't make it any longer. And they kept saying, "No, no, we'll get you. We'll get you lined out. We'll get you." And I couldn't get them waved off, and so they get me going down the fence, and they had the arena, both ends of the arena, fenced off, and they put more stands up and everything. And so she's going down the fence, and she'll hit the fence one jump, crash into the fence, and then she'd bump into the pickup men the next jump, and then she'd crash into the fence, and I got to watching that fence, and I just kind of lost my balance and fell off, and I fell off. It's the only time I hung a foot in the stirrup over the top of the saddle, and she was, still bucking pretty hard, but she drugged me, I don't know, just a couple jumps, and finally stepped in the middle of my back and popped me out of there, and I just rolled up like a cartoon and popped up in the air, and I would always kind of jump up real fast, and I just really couldn't help it, but I popped up, and they had these portable grandstands that were right up even with the fence, and I look up, and there's a couple of fat girls in the third row screaming, and I took my hat off and hollered at them. They thought that was pretty neat. That was a good ride. Then they put me on another horse after that just brought me back down to earth. He humbled me pretty good. He pitched me right out of there. Then, yeah, that one was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I rode bareback horses, and there's definitely a learning curve to being able to get off on the pickup man correctly. I think it was probably 20 or 30 bareback horses staying on him anyways before I wasn't just flat scared of the pickup man. Remember probably the 7th or 8th bareback horse I got on, I stayed on till the buzzer, sat up and double grabbed, and I'm shook loose. And the only thing I can remember is thinking, don't fall off in front of the pickup man. And that's exactly what happened. And halfway between the back of that bronc and the ground, I hear the pickup man go, "God damn it, kid." And here come the hooves.
Yeah.
And that pickup horse, he tap danced all the way across me.
Yeah. Another thing I remember is getting on practice horses one time. Some friends of mine, the Hammockers in Laramie, and Ty was picking up Ty Hammocker, and I don't remember the horse much, but I remember it was getting pretty fast at the end, and kind of horse that wasn't real fun to be on top of. And it was getting kind of fast, and I just decided I needed to be off there, and I just bailed, and they weren't, they were trying to get him picked up, but they didn't really have him lined out. Well, Ty was in the back pushing, and just kind of the way I ended up coming off of there, I landed in a big old heap, and I looked up, and Ty's bearing down, and he couldn't stop. He couldn't stop his horse, and it didn't scare me much because I'd been run over by them before, and they usually don't get you. They just kind of, you might catch a hoof on the way by, but they usually don't step right on you. And,
Right.
well, Ty looks down, and I wish I had a framed picture of the look on his face because he was so concerned. He didn't want to hurt me, and he was looked kind of terrified, and he kind of did get me because he tried to pull up, and the horse kind of got me just a little, but it was worth it just to see the look on Ty's face because he really didn't want to run me down.
So with your adversity to pickup man, did you get any good at the flying dismount at Bauer style, or did you figure it out?
Oh yeah, well, the pickup man's a lot easier on the saddle bronc deal if you got things kind of under control because you could jump off of your stirrups and you could bail off the same way. It's if they're still bucking a little anyways, you can jump off of them stirrups and you can land that pretty easy.
Gotcha. So you rodeoed for a couple of years after college.
Yeah, I rodeoed around a bit after college.
Where'd that lead you?
Nowhere much. So, yeah.
Fell victim to being a working man?
Well, I tried everything else, but yeah, I ended up the rodeo deal kind of petered out, and um, yeah, I kind of petered out there for a while, and I just kind of started. I had a boot making deal going on. I learned how to make boots, and there towards the end of the rodeo, and I got real smart, and I thought I'd try to finance the rodeo and with the boot making, and um, yeah, so I was getting hungry there there for a while,
Who'd
and
you apprentice under in your boot making?
there was a guy there around Laramie named Jerry Gaddis that he was a good cowboy and a bronc rider and a boot maker, and he had he'd kind of quit. He'd had a boot shop for like 30 years or something. He kind of quit on it, and he was in his 60s when I was around him, but he'd kind of quit on the boot making deal and went back to cowboying for a while, and till that got to be pretty hard on him, and so he came back into town, and um, where I was at that point I was repairing boots. That was the last job I took when I was still going to college, and that's about the time I quit going to college. I run into him. He came in there and was looking for a space to get set up to make boots, and so he leased a spot there in that shop. And of course, I thought, well, he's going to just take all my repair work. I'm going to run out of a job real fast. And he was real quiet, didn't say much. And the first day he was there, he just did his thing and his side of the room, and I was working on my stuff. And middle of the day, he came over and offered to take me to lunch, and I said okay, and we went and sat down to eat somewhere. And he said, "So I heard you wanted to make boots," and because I had thought, I'd try to figure this deal out. I was repairing these boots all the time, and I thought I bet I could make some. So I bought some leather and cut it up, and made a big old mess, and figured out there's more to it than I thought there was. And anyways, Jerry said, "I heard you wanted to make boots," and I said, "Well, yeah, I tried to figure it out, and I realized there's a lot of equipment and stuff I don't have, and really I didn't get anywhere with it." He said, "Well, when we get back, why don't you get your leather out and show me what you got done?" And I did, and I showed him what I had, and he said, "Yeah, we could make this work." And what I had done was horrible too, but he was real nice about it, and he said, "Yeah, we could make this work." And so then every day we'd work on my boots there for a little bit, and we got a pair put together. And he made let me do all the work, um, and we got them put together, and then I remember we had a hell of a time pulling the lasts out of them, which is always a bad sign. That means you're going to have a hard time putting your feet in them.
What's the last?
That's the form that you basically build them around.
Okay.
And we had a hell of a time getting them out. We got them out finally, and dumped a whole bunch of baby powder in there, and I put them on. I had to pull and stomp and everything to get them on, and I got them on, and they hurt like hell. and but they look good, or at least the bottom part of them did. If you didn't look at the top stitching, and Jerry said, "Well, they fit." And I said, "They're a little tight." And he said, "Yeah, that means they fit." And he said, and he said, "Do you like them?" I said, "Well, I think I do." And I didn't want to tell him that was the first pair of handmade boots I'd had, and I didn't realize the amount of arch support that you get with a good pair of boots, and I wasn't used to it. I just always wore shelf boots, and they're just like slippers basically. And it takes a bit to get used to that. Once you get used to it, then you can't get by without it. But anyways, he said, "Well, I think you did pretty good, and here's what we're gonna do. Anybody that comes in this shop to order a pair of boots from me, if it's somebody I won't build them. You're going to build them." And so that's kind of how I got started making boots. And guys would come in there, like young guys my age would come in there because they knew about Jerry, and wanted to get a pair of his boots, and he wouldn't sell him a pair. He'd make him buy a pair for me.
That's
And
pretty neat.
yeah, he did a lot to help me. He sure did.
Today's boot market on the shelf is pretty sad.
It is.
When you for the working cowboy, I mean that because how I feel about today's boot market, what you buy at the big box stores is they don't sell maybe 5% or less as riding boots. Everything else is a Western style tennis shoe, basically.
Yeah, yeah. And most of them don't last very good. There's a lot of synthetics, and the synthetics last better than most of the leather you can get. But for me, it's real important to have a good fit. And if your foot's not slopping around in your boot, that makes everything a lot better. And then that arch support is real important. Um,
What's the difference in construction between handcrafted riding boots like that and say even mass produced riding boots versus like the double H walk-in boots that you see that show up every year around rodeo time in any given town?
well, I never mass produced any boots, and if you ask anybody that ever ordered a pair from me, they'll tell you that. But they do a lot of things because they use equipment um, for the actual lasting process, which is when you pull the leather over the last to make it to make it fit. They'll use a lasting machine that's a hydraulic machine that can pull that over there. And so they'll do that with the leather a little drier and stuff so that it won't rip. And then they'll part of what they do, the way they shape the actual last is to make it as close to round as possible so that it's easier to pull that leather over there.
Foot's not round.
And the foot's not round. Yeah. So that's a lot of it. That's why a lot of your boots will be the actual foot part of it is narrower than your foot, but then it's taller than your foot too. And you because of the way the bones and stuff are structured in the foot can kind of squish together to fit into there. It's not really a good situation for your foot though. Um, and then you see like a pair of boots that a guy's been wearing a while, and they're walking out over the side of the welt and stuff, because they don't fit
Sure.
and they don't last as long that way, and they're not as comfortable. And just like for me, that having that arch support underneath your foot, it makes a big difference in your ankles and your knees and your hips and your back and all the way up, especially if you've had any kind of injuries or anything at all, and if you put a lot of miles on a horse, all that makes a big difference.
Right. Most people don't realize that the arch support is so crucial in riding boots.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
is that a I see a lot of people try to remedy a boot problem by changing stirrups, and that's kind of just a cheap fix or not necessarily a cheap fix, but an improper fix or a band-aid, isn't it?
well, I don't know. I guess if it works for you, it works. But I know for me, um, what I see is people riding in slippers a lot, and they get these big wide stirrups. And I guess if it's comfortable for them, it's comfortable. But when I've tried something like that, then the angle's kind of wrong, and it puts more pressure on my knees and that kind of stuff. So.
Sure. You probably cringe watching me ride around because my boots are about a size too big, and I ride those big wide stirrups.
Oh, I don't think much about it. I just think about what I'm doing mostly, but I mean, I know lots and lots of guys that are riding letters pickers and whatever. I I guess if it works for them, it works.
Yeah.
I was always scared to do that because I don't like getting my feet stuck, and it always looked like they'd get stuck in them. But
Have you ever had a set of stirrups that's had that grippy stuff on the bottom of them?
no,
Me either. That scares the hell out of me.
yeah.
So you're building boots there in Wyoming still. Where did that lead you?
Well, I was kind of starving out trying to make a living building boots and rodeoing, and I didn't really want to, there for a minute. I looked at some buildings and I was thinking about leasing a building and just really commit to the boot making deal. But I always really just wanted a cowboy. And whenever I did other stuff, it never felt as important to me. Even the rodeo deal, like I had fun riding the horses, but the traveling and all the downtime, that was what killed me on rodeo and was how much downtime there is sitting around waiting. Um, you drive all day to get there and, sit around, wait for it to start, ride your horse, and then go to start driving again. That I never really liked all that.
A lot of time
But
waiting, it seems like
yeah,
just wasted.
yeah. Well, and I had a lot of fun rodeoing, but I never felt like I was doing something that mattered. And that's nothing against guys that rodeo and whatever, and they do, that provide good entertainment for people and stuff. That's all great, but for me, it kind of felt hollow a little bit, and all that I had all kinds of different jobs for a while when I was rodeoing, whatever I could do to pay the bills and get some gas in the tank and get down the road. But if I wasn't ranching, I don't know. Nothing else really felt like it mattered that much. So I've always kind of gone back to that. And I had a friend of mine cornered me up in the bar and wanted some help calving some heifers. And I told him, well, yeah, I could do that. So I went up to Moorcroft and went to work for the Williams family up there for supposed to be for a month and ended up staying for about 2 years. Calved some heifers for them, rode a lot of colts, and uh, they ran a they had a lease place that I lived on, and I kind of run the cows on that place, and they were real good to work for. And after that, I ended up I was dating my wife, who's my now wife. I was dating her then, and she was going to school down in Laramie, so I thought, well, maybe I'll move back down there and get close to her. I went down there and I rented a barn for a while and rode some colts, um, and then I packed all that boot making equipment around over the years, and now and then I'd get set up, make a few pairs of boots. And I did that for a while there. Again in Laramie, I'd ride colts in the mornings and build boots in the afternoons. And I got a job. They're taking care of yearlings there between Laramie and Cheyenne, and would do that. Um, that would, and that I really like doing that. That was a good job, but did that, and then when I would build boots and kind of go back and forth on the ranching and the boot making deal for a while.
Sure. I've never been around Wyoming much, or dang sure I've never cowboyed in Wyoming. I think honestly the only thing I've ever done is drive through Wyoming. What's all pasture grass there, or how do the outfits there work a lot?
Well, in the southern part of the state, like Laramie, Cheyenne, Rawlins, all that area down there, anymore it's mostly yearling outfits. There are people that run cows there, but it's a tough place to winter cattle. Um, and if you do it, you could calve in the summer, later in the summer, and have some pretty tough cows, and you'll make it all right. But it's getting, nobody wants to deal with it much in the winter so anymore. So it's a lot more common to run yearlings around there. It's really good, strong grass. It's high altitude. It's all above 7,000 feet through there, and it's
What all sicknesses came with that altitude?
well, we'd get some altitude sickness, and that's you got to source your cattle right is the main thing, and then you watch them. The way we dealt with it is like my camp was at 8,500 feet, and Laramie's at 7,200. And so when I would find a steer, you just watch them steers. They start showing that they're not feeling good, and that when I'd see some falling off or whatever I thought might be altitude sickness, I'd just rope them and pull them in the trailer. And I had a corral there at the house, so when I'd get a trailer load of them, then I'd take them down to the headquarters at Laramie, and we had yearlings scattered all around that Laramie Valley. And once we'd get a couple truckloads of them, we'd load them up, send them to a feedlot in Fort Collins, and which is a lot lower. I think it's like 3,500 feet or something. And so then we'd ship them down there and feed them out, and they do real good then. But the only thing you can do is get them down to lower elevations.
So that altitude sickness is not something you treat with an antibiotic, or what is that
No, it's just
exactly
a
in
heart.
cattle?
It's just a heart condition. They can't handle that pressure at a higher altitude.
I see.
They get it now a lot in feedlot cattle, actually, because we bred these cattle up so big, and their organs, or the way I understand it, anyways, we bred their size up so big, and their organs haven't kept up with that. So you get like these big fat black suckers in a feedlot, and their heart can't keep up with them, and that's one of the bigger causes, from what I understand. I'm not a feedlot guy, but it's one of the bigger causes of the later feedlot deaths, and they're heavier into cattle, is heart failure. Um, and it's a mainly genetics.
I see. So how long did you stay in Wyoming there, taking care of yearlings and dating your current wife,
Oh
your
man,
only wife?
yeah, my only wife. So, well, I I stuck around there till about the fall of 2013. Um, my wife's family needed some help out here, and we were dating at the time then, and getting pretty serious. And they needed a little help out here, and so I come out here and was gonna just stick around through the winter and then go back to Laramie and run yearlings again. And you know, was springtime was coming, and there was still a lot of work needed done, and we still were real short-handed here. And I said, you know what, maybe, and it was getting to be branding time and all that. And I said, well, shoot, maybe I'll just stick around here if you still need the help. They said, all right, and um, I ended up working for them for 6 years there. And then we left for a while, and um, went and tried out another place for a while and did some different stuff, and now we're back again. So
Sure. That first 6 years, that's where I met you. Um, Seen a listing on the internet for a cowboy needed, and thought I could fill the gig. It was the first big outfit I ever worked for. Um, that would have been in the fall of 2015, and you got stuck with me.
yeah,
You're cow boss on the outfit, and I was lost in the desert.
well, you never did get plumb lost.
Not totally. I left you some notes. Was that first or second day I worked for you?
Yeah, I remember, and that was not all your fault, because that was my first year running that allotment, and
That's a big allotment.
yeah, well, and I didn't know the country that good, but there was a Peruvian guy that had been staying out there for a couple years, and he knew his way around pretty good, but he didn't speak English, and I didn't speak Spanish very well, and he was the one that told me where to send you that day, and I apparently didn't get it translated very good because
I ended up in the steepest, rockiest, most miserable canyon.
well, it might have been the right one then, but
I
but
was
I just remember whatever water we would send you after probably was dried up anyways, but you never did find that water. But I found a cow skull on the edge of the road with a note and an arrow pointing on it, telling me which way you decided to ride. So,
Hell,
so
I had cattle when you found me.
yeah,
That allotment was probably, 90% clean when I showed up. We were just looking for remnants.
yeah, we were just finishing up with it.
Yeah,
It was in the fall, if I remember right.
yeah, it was
October, probably.
yeah, it was my first day was my wife and I's third wedding anniversary, and my first two anniversaries with her between the oil fields and other things. I wasn't there. Came into the office here, and Pat told me, pack your bedroll and saddle your horse and put 2 extra horses in the trailer. You're going to camp for a week.
Yeah.
And that was my first day. And rode down that canyon and circled back around up to the road where it dropped me off, and I couldn't figure out where they at. And it was starting to get a little bit later in the day, so I just picked a direction on this road and started riding on it. I found this cow skull, had a pen in my pocket, so I wrote something like, "I'm alive, I'm going this way," and I pointed an arrow and I set that cow skull right in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
That was a fun gather with that guy. My Spanish was basically non-existent, and I believe you stayed one night with us out there, showed me where camp was, kind of gave me a real vague lay of the land, and then left me out there for the rest of the week with the guy I couldn't talk to.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's how I learned Spanish. That's a good way to learn it, I guess.
Yeah.
And Aline was great because he wouldn't shut up. So you're going to learn some Spanish one way or another. He was real social, and I remember when I first came here, I was standing in the bunkhouse with him, and I couldn't talk to him, and he wanted to talk, and I couldn't understand him, and he would just keep at it and keep at it until he figured out how to make me understand what he was trying to say, and I'd learn a new word and write it down. And my Spanish still isn't very good, but that's who's responsible for getting me going, learning some of that.
Yeah, Aline was a pretty cool guy. That first week, I had a set of dominoes with me because I like to play dominoes. And I haven't played dominoes for several years now, but at the time I was really into it. My dad and I'd play a lot. And I struggled my way through teaching him how to play dominoes one night as we were it was late in the year, so the nights were kind of long. And I hadn't had him playing dominoes for maybe 5 or 6 hands, and he started beating me.
Yeah.
And he kept beating me. And he went, his rotation up here ended not too long, maybe 2 weeks or so, something like that. And the rest of that time, every night, him and I play dominoes. I don't think I ever won a game against him. Just a good teacher or something.
He's a smart guy for sure.
Man,
he picked up the horse steal and roping and all that. He picked it up real fast.
Yep. I remember when he'd rope something and he wanted me to heel it, he'd look at me and he'd go, "Okie dokie."
yeah, he used to always say, "Okie dokie, son."
Oh, it was a good time. After Elaine left and we got that allotment clean or as clean as we needed to get it, I think we rode for 4 or 5 days and didn't see hide or hair track or anything, and our numbers were about right. You sent me down to a ranch, about an hour from the headquarters, hour and a half from the headquarters, and said, "This allotment's 250,000 acres. There's 400 head. Here's a string of horses. Go gather it. Call me when you got a truckload ready."
Yep.
And that was trial by fire.
Yep. Yeah, that's how we do it here. So we learn as you go.
Yeah, I'd call you in the mornings and ask for any ideas where they might be and how to get there from camp. It was fun times. You'd come out and ride. We what wrecks did we get out there doing that? I remember we got in a couple binds. Were you there the day my horse broke through that alkali crust, and he hung me from the saddle horn off the leg of my shaps?
No, you told me about that.
Yeah, that was a good wreck. You're pretty big into grass management. You really enjoy that, and tried to teach me a lot of that. I don't know how much I've picked up, but
Yeah,
desert grass management, not pastures.
well, it's all well, it's the same principles. You apply them different depending on where you're at, but it's the same. When I was growing up, I gotta go with my dad a lot. Um, horseback or putting out mineral or whatever it was, and he showed me how to do stuff like the actual physical part. Riding a horse and all that, and whatever it was we were doing, fencing and whatnot. Um, but then it didn't end there. He talked a lot about why we're doing what we're doing and what we maybe could be doing better. And he talked a lot about the grass and keeping the grass healthy and a lot about the root systems of the plants and stuff and how what you do on the ground affects what's going on under the ground. And I picked up a little bit in college, as far as different ideas about managing grass and stuff. And I've always just whatever I'm doing, I want to do a good job of it. And I really believe in taking care of things, whether it's the horses or the cattle or the people or you know the whatever resources you got, fences, corrals, grass, and you know everything that we get or that we have as a society or as a ranch business or even a society in general is it comes from that little bit of topsoil and the fact that it rains and the sun shines and the way that we do things really does affect what happens in the soil and all that. So, but anyways, it's just kind of something I've picked up a little more interest in as I get a little older, and it started kind of with, I want the cows to be in good shape, so I want them to eat good, and so then I care about the plants, and I want the plants to be healthy so that the cows can be healthy, and well, the plants are healthy when the soil's healthy, so um, you just learn a little more and a little more and a little more. But for me, it comes down to keeping that ground covered, um, especially on a rangeland deal and on the desert is so important because you get very little rain anyways, and what rain you get, you want it to have a chance to soak in and not run off. So keep some vegetation on the ground, keep it covered, and and then kind of try to have a shorter graze and a longer rest period, and um, and there's lots of different ways to get there, depending on what you got as far as fences and water and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And at that time, you were cow boss on the outfit, running me around the desert, taking care of the mountain side of the ranch, and taking care of the pasture cattle at the headquarters here on the meadows. And we had a lot of fun trying to move stuff around the meadows. I remember we got some, well, what were they, like 2-year-olds out of Texas? They were,
We always buy some yearlings, usually out of Texas.
yeah,
Usually F1 Bramers, Brangus cattle.
yeah. I get to my cow camp and had a note on the table from Emsby, who was the ghost that would leave me notes
Yeah,
to
yeah,
tell me when to come home,
yeah.
and said that you needed help. And Emsby let me know that you needed some help moving stuff around the pastures, the meadows here. And I show up, and you'd got this whole bunch of cattle while I was gone and needed to move them from a meadow. And we had one heifer in particular decide she was not leaving that pasture.
Yeah, I remember that. And those cattle, if one goes back, the best thing to do is take some more back to go get her because as a group, they're a little flighty, but you can handle them. But when they get off on their own, they look for a place to hide, and especially from the part of Texas we're getting them from. They think if they can find a willow or a sagebrush or anything, they're going to try to get underneath it and get away. But I do remember we had a couple of them that got out in different places. We had to rope them and skid them back to where they needed to go. And I remember doing that a few times. But I remember
This day
probably the time you're thinking about, you were riding old Poncho.
Old Poncho Villa.
Poncho, who was, he was a pretty good horse for a company horse, but he had a switch in him. And
he had a reputation.
Yeah.
The day you strung him to me, you said, okay, it's Bronco Tuesday. I'm going to ride one that's going to buck, and you're going to ride one that's going to buck.
Yeah. Well, Poncho's, he wouldn't buck most of the time unless if he was fresh and you hadn't been rode for a bit, he'd buck. And then if he thought you might get in any kind of a bind roping something, then he'd buck.
He'd help you get in the bind. He liked it, yeah.
And I remember that one heifer was sold up real bad and just wasn't going to go, and we didn't have that far to go.
No, we were,
what, we just
200 yards from the gate?
2 ropes on her, and we're skidding her across the gate, and kind of doing pretty good until we had to cross a little ditch or something. And
had a rope on each front foot.
Poncho just decided to unload you.
Yeah, what I remember is we had a rope on each front foot, and the pastures, for context, I'm terrified of water. I don't even look at the drain in the shower. And this pasture's probably 3 or 4 inches deep with water, which in my mind is 3 or 4 inches deeper than I want to deal with.
Yeah.
And
yeah, these meadows are always wet.
Yeah, yep. They're great meadows for it. But we're skidding this, basically water skiing this heifer towards this gate, and you're on I don't remember who you were on exactly, but I remember your horse had a pretty good self-preservation instinct that day. And
That's right.
I'd been riding Poncho long enough. I knew his buttons real well, and we get to one of these little meadow ditches, and I'm on the inside of the V of the ropes, which that wasn't a terrible concern. And one of Poncho's buttons to decide that the situation was no longer okay was a hard jerk. So you had to make sure if you roped something big or heeled something behind side moving quick, you had to slide a lot of rope so he didn't take that sudden jerk. And as long as you did that, he was fine. Well, with that meadow being wet and the couple more we'd roped earlier that day, that mule hide on my saddle, it was gummy and grippy. And I think I had a cotton rope that day. I think I was using cottons then. And we got to this little ditch, and your horse got over it just fine because I was a little bit shorter than you were. And we're at, if I remember right,
you had the shorter rope.
Yeah, we're at a pretty, not a high trot, but we're trotting this heifer, water skiing her across pasture. And Poncho went to jump that little ditch, and I went to slide a bunch of rope, and it bound up, and it didn't give an inch. And as soon as I felt that rope come tight, I felt Poncho break. And I remember thinking I need to pop my dallies because he always goes to the left when you got something roped. He knows he can drag you off with your own rope. Well, I didn't get my dallies popped quick enough. He drags me off with this rope, and I look up just in time to see my saving grace's horse running off because this mad heifer's now got both her front legs back.
Yeah, I remember that. You just reminded me, but yeah, you ended up on the ground with a pissed off heifer.
And she showed up at 9-0 and proceeded to try and drown me.
Yeah.
Oh, man. The worst part of it was she ran me over and stuck me in the mud real good. And she didn't camp on me very long, but she let me know she wasn't happy with our proposition. And I ended up a lot wetter than I wanted to be. And I don't remember if you got your horseback gathered up and got one of the ropes back, or went and got my horse.
But I remember he kind of run off.
Trying to get away from Poncho.
Yeah. And we got her in there. Did you get bucked off another time or
that day? No.
No. Well, we got her in there though.
Did Poncho buck me off other times? Yes.
Yeah, well, he did that now and then.
Yeah, and he would. Poncho was probably the best horse in my string. if you played by his rules.
Yeah. Well, that tells everybody what they need to know. It's the best horse in your string and just buck you off whenever he feels like it.
Yeah,
So,
and he didn't necessarily buck hard, but he'd get you shook just a little bit loose and then give you a dirty move.
yeah.
And he really had it figured out. If you had something roped, he'd go to the left every single time. Whoever had him before I did taught him that
Well, that was a whole handful of guys.
that was a way out, was just drag this guy off with his rope.
Yeah.
I remember we were cutting a bunch of big calves that got missed on the desert that fall. We were in that square trap at the feedlot. Remember that big dust devil come through? And he blew up. I had something rope and he blew up. And I popped my dallies, but he got shed of me and I landed on my feet and never dropped my bridle reins. And you looked at me and said, well, I guess it doesn't count if you don't hit the dirt or drop your reins.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Poncho used to do that a lot. I had a kid come work for me once, and he rode Poncho on the first day, and we branded calves, and he was kind of fresh. And he made it through branding all these calves, and he was doing all right. Roped okay and all that, and got along with Poncho pretty good. And then we had somewhere we come up with a bull calf that needed cut, like a 6-weight bull calf that needed cut, and he, for whatever reason, he was standing in the round pen. And so we just decided we'd rope him right there. And I roped him, and this kid goes in there and heels him, and he gets 2 feet. And it was way too small to be trying to rope in there, and this little bull was pissed off. And he gets 2 feet, and when he dallied, everything come tight. Old Poncho just bucked him off real quick. And so we get the bull cut and turn him out. Then we go out on the meadows, and there's a bunch of pink eye heifers, and we're doctoring pink eye. And every time we get one roped, I'd neck it, he'd heel it. Poncho would buck him off every time, and just doing the same thing every time. He didn't really buck much. He'd just kind of start going to the left, and he'd get you wrapped up. And I told this kid, hey, now listen, if you just, next time he does that, forget about your rope and just pick up his head, and he'll quit. And I kept, because I just have to go catch his horse again, and wrap up the heifer, get her doctored, go catch his horse, and we'd start over. We did this several times, and then so finally I get him talked through getting him rode one time, and he gets his head picked up, and gets him shut down, and he gets the cow or the heifer healed, and we get her doctored and all that, and get it done, and he's sitting up there kind of nervous and shaking, and oh, I got him. I say, yeah, you did it. See, it wasn't that bad, was it? No, it wasn't that bad. He said, I don't think I want to rope anymore. And I had just coiled up my rope, and he said, I don't think I want to rope anymore on him today. I said, okay. And there's a heifer standing right there, and I rope her. And so now he's he knows he can do it, but he's still pretty scared. And so he rides up and he gets her healed, and the horse is just fine. Once you get him once, then he quits,
Yeah.
And so we get that heifer roped, and I get off and throw her down and just pull the ropes off and let her up. He goes, you son of a...
Oh, man, I had, working for you there, I had 2 gray horses in my string, Poncho and Lefty. And the old timer that, and I mean that as a term of endearment, if the individual's listening to this, he says, I remember when they started that horse. I've never seen a horse buck harder in my life than that horse did. And that was Lefty. Well, Brandon season, I think this was the second time I worked for you. And I trying to be humble, but I feel like at that point I'd come a long ways in my skills and abilities and had made a hand at that point. And you sent myself and the Abelio, maybe? I don't. Anyways,
around then.
yeah. Anyways, one of the provings, we trailed a bunch of cattle up the mountain, and the deal was we were going to leave early in the morning, do that, turn around, trot home, and Pat would have the guys that showed up to brand that day, and they'd have the cattle in, and they'd go to branding calves, and we were gonna jump in when we got there. So we got the cattle up to where we were going, no problem. Aired our horses a little bit, turn around, and I was on a different horse, a sorrel horse at the time, and I'd been riding him on the desert and trying to make him a horse I could kind of count on to be there when I needed him. And he was kind of maybe a high strung, I guess would be a good way to describe him. Gentle, but high strung. So we get down to the branding trap, and the roping's going on there, branding. And of course, etiquette says you don't just ride into the trap and go to rope, and you step off and work the ground till you're told to rope. So I left him outside the trap, hobbled him, go to work in the ground, and I hear a bunch of hooting and hollering, and I look up, and this sorry sucker is full on running off in my hobbles. No, I mean, not like doing the high lope, I'm hobbled lope. Like, he figured out how to flat run in them hobbles. And he makes it, I don't know, a couple 100 yards across that real rocky lot that he was in, and he falls and mashes one of my stirrups, strands my I had a cotton rope that was broken and just sweet. Three strands of it broke within probably 4 foot of the center of it. The rope's trash. I go and get him gathered up. He's sore, and I'm so mad. Like, you can see the steam coming off of me now because everybody just watched this, and I'm embarrassed and mad. And we were pretty close to the headquarters, so I walked down to the barn, and the only horse standing in the wrangle pen when I got down there was Lefty. And Lefty had the Indian sign on me. I won't lie about that. He'd bucked me off a couple times, and pretty hard a couple times. And I hadn't ever pressed hard enough to have to rope a lot on Lefty. If something needed doctor to take care of, I would do it. But it was a pretty quick, quiet deal with him because he could really crank it. And I was so mad, I walked out and I grabbed him, got him saddled, put a different set of stirrups on that saddle, grabbed a different rope. And this whole ordeal's drug out over, half hour, 45 minutes or so. It was
Yeah, you missed most of the branding
yeah,
that day.
I showed up, I trotted Lefty back to the branding trap, rode in, and everybody's standing in the pen, coiling their ropes up, and the irons are laying down next to the branding pot. And I'm madder now because I've missed all the branding. I mean, I could have fought anybody that day and won. And a guy by the name of Danny, who likes to go fast, he says, "Hey, there's one more. There's one more." Well, I shook a loop down on Lefty. Danny drags this thing past me, and I roped both back feet and headed to the fire on him. And he's humped up and starting to growl, and I didn't care. Got to the fire. I put a spur into his ribs and turned him around. We held that calf on right there. They set the ropes, and I backed Lefty up against the ropes. And the way he stopped, he's in a permanently humped up position. I'm waiting for him to uncoil. And that's when we realized the irons were cold and still laying outside the trap. So now we have to hold this calf while the irons get hot again. And remember Lefty snorting at everybody walking by?
Yeah.
he was mad about it. So the irons finally get hot again. And just about the time they set the iron on that calf and the smoke starts coming up, Christian, one of my best friends, he walks over and he slaps me on the leg on my shaft so hard there's this pop. It sounded like a gunshot. And he says, "You are a good cowboy." He's Chilean, so he's got a great accent. He says, "You are a good cowboy." And I popped my dallies and stepped off a Lefty just as fast as I could.
Yeah. Well, then the next day you roped a bunch on him, and he did pretty good, actually.
Roped the whole next day at the branding on him, and he never threw a fit once.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
I took him out to the desert about a week later and went to Doctor a Pink Eye on the desert, and he bucked me off, and I followed him all the way back to camp on foot.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he wasn't no kid's horse, that's for sure.
No. My big achievement was Lefty, is that I could get him to put his head down to put his bridle on, which his ears were real sore for some reason. He had a fungus or something in him, so you couldn't ever touch his ears or he'd strike at you and just be a terrorist about it. And like I said, a big accomplishment with him was I got him to put his head down while I'd take his bridle apart, put it in his mouth that way.
Yeah.
Had a lot of fun working out here for you.
Yeah, well, it's a fun place to be.
So you worked here for what, 6 years? You said the first time.
Yeah, my wife and I worked here for 6 years, and then we just started looking over the fence and decided to go somewhere else for a bit. And we went and did that. Moved over south of Denial. And worked on Knott Creek Ranch there.
That's a cool place.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And we stayed there for 5 years. And then things kind of changed to where we thought but it was probably time to come back to the family place and be part of that again. So now we moved back here this last fall, and we bought us a little place just up the road here, a little small place with a house and a little bit of irrigated ground and barn and corrals and whatnot. And so now we're back here in the valley and doing our thing here.
Perfect. This time though, you're just running the desert side of things out here.
Well, yeah. Well, there's never any limit to anything here, but
Sure.
yeah, that's kind of my deal is run the desert cow herd in the grow yard and whatever cattle are around the meadows and stuff. And then we've got another herd that goes to the winters in the mountains here and goes down to the San Joaquin Valley or summers in the mountains here. They go to the San Joaquin Valley in the wintertime. And we got a guy that moves back and forth with those cows. So.
Gotcha. What's your goals out on your deserts this year?
Oh, geez.
I'll throw you on the spot right here.
Yeah, no, we just want to, we just want them to do good and take care of the ground, So we the way we run that desert, we do have enough fence out there where we can rotate those cows around. So most of the time they're on ground that's had a year's rest. Most of the cattle are, and that makes it a pretty easy deal. So you just got to pay attention and make sure you're moving them at the right times. As the grass is starting to turn, you're moving higher with them, and then just depending on the year, how things shape up later this spring and summer, we'll come home. Anytime between August and October.
Yeah,
depending on how things go. So
bringing cattle off that desert's a fun job.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I like that allotment. It's a good allotment, and it's not, it's not too tough to work it, but you got enough room to move around.
Yeah, man, one of the best jokes I ever played in my life was coming home off that desert. If anybody out there knows what Burning Man is, they know the traffic that comes with it. Pat and I had I don't know, 400 pairs that day, give or take.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like we always end up bringing a group of cattle home during the big hippie exodus. So, and
yeah, they were coming in that day. That we gathered early that year.
Yeah, they were coming in. That's right.
And the way it's all set up here, when we get on the pavement, one guy rides ahead of the herd, a couple guys ride in the back of the herd. So we gather these pairs off this desert, spend all week doing it, and it's basically our Friday. I don't remember what day of the week it was, but we're going to get these cattle home and take a day off and then go to shaping them up and sorting on them the next week. And Pat says, we get to the highway, and Pat says, well, why don't you ride ahead today, and I'll stand in the back and bring the trailer along. He had some dogs at the time that handled the heat pretty well, so it worked pretty good that way. And it just happened to be Pat's birthday that day. And he had a purple shirt on. A nice, shiny, real good looking purple shirt. Like one of those nice, like area roper shirts. like straight off of like Corral West Shelf or something. And every single one of them burners that had to go through the herd, I would stand broadside in the highway to where they had to stop and talk to me. And every one of them, I'd say, hey, the cowboy in the back of the herd with the purple shirt, it's his birthday.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I was in the pickup, and this and I don't want to talk to those guys. Um,
Pat's not very social in reality.
yeah.
I had to twist his arm to get him on the podcast.
So this Winnebago with a couple of quitters in it pulls up, and this goofy looking feller, he leans out the window and he says, "I hear it's somebody's birthday." And I just said, "Oh, F you." And then I don't know, we must have passed 50 cars that did the same kind of deal. Somebody that lived a different sort of lifestyle that made me uncomfortable would have to stop and talk to me all the way home.
Oh, man. I was roaring in the front of the herd knowing how mad Pat was back there.
Yeah, that was a pretty good joke.
Yeah, we got back to headquarters here with that bunch, and when you get them off the highway, then whoever's riding the lead kind of falls in the back and helps pushing the last little bit. And Pat rides up to me and he said, "Man, I'd be so mad at you, but that's such a good joke. I just can't be mad at you for it."
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Jeez. Yeah, a lot of fun times out here.
Yeah, for sure.
We got any moments really stand out in your mind you want to share with the world?
Oh, geez.
Remember all the fence posts we put in at the corrals right before that branding? We spent
Yeah, we fixed up the willow corral that was falling down, and then the very next day, one of the sheep herders was helping us gather them cows. He tied his horse to that fence and tore it all down.
Yeah, those posts weren't in the ground 24 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, always something.
Yeah, that's the truth too. So what's the plans for the future? Just run your place and be here, have it be good.
Yeah, just yeah, we got our little place bought, and we're gonna fix that up a little, and um, just keep, hopefully get some cattle bought at some point. We want to be able to. It's just a little small place, but we want to be able to trade some cattle on it a little, and cattle and horses, and yeah, and keep running these cows over here.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to being a part of it.
Yeah.
And Pat's using me for day work. And for those of you that are on the YouTube side, on the Rubeck, Nevada channel, you see a lot of Pat. And the Knot Creek videos, I was up there for a week when he was there. Of course, that was a fun trip. We camped out that last night up on the mountain there. Be sure and check those videos out.
Yeah, I don't really have any socials or anything like that.
Yeah, you're kind of a man of anonymity, right? That's a word. Anonymousness.
Yeah.
No, folks, we appreciate you listening. I'm gonna figure this podcasting thing out as we go, and we look forward to talking to you on the next one.